How quickly can I teach you about female psychopaths? First of all, two kinds: sleeper cell and primary. So primary, smart, organized, non-criminal. Sleeper cells, charming, high functional for months or years before their true nature shows. Secondary psychopaths, impulsive, disorganized, criminal, and in captivity, generally speaking. All psychopaths are narcissists, but not all narcissists are psychopaths. Psychopaths have virtually no capacity for self-reflection or change, unlike narcissists. Red flags and behavior: lack of empathy and win at all costs mentality. They pursue their own advantage regardless of the damage to others. Chronic dishonesty and manipulation, fraud and emotional manipulation, coercive control, calculated lying, schemes using friends' money, never taking responsibility. They do not apologize. They don't admit mistakes and habitually blame others for and take credit for others' work. They gaslight, undermine someone's reality and confidence, often through subtle comments, rumors, and concern, which is actually sabotage. And they know the words but not the music. They can perform emotions, crying, victim language, but it's freaking empty and staged to close observers. I would describe these people as monsters in our midst. They have outward emotions, but an eerie emptiness when you try to reach into them. They tend to cloak their behavior in relationships. Sisterhood and victim identities, mask of victimhood. When confronted, they quickly switch, claiming past abuse, bullying, or crises, collecting victim badges. He left me, I was abused, and they make the criticism socially difficult, if not impossible. Relational aggression, non-physical, social tactics, exclusion, rumor spreading, gossip, reputation attacks that lower someone's social standing and isolate them. Queen bee syndrome, a female leader who wants to control other women. She builds a loyal posse of women who support and protect her and help dismiss complaints from targets. Flying monkeys, allies, people around the psychopath, sometimes with low-level dark traits, who collaborate because they're drawn to the power and hope to benefit, e.g. promotion. She emphasizes, and another thing is that they care deeply about being liked about in relationships. So relational aggression hits them harder and can be contagious. Some bullied women start copying the psychopath's tactics to avoid being targeted themselves. So an extreme harm to targets might be suicidality, career destruction, and role reversal. Like the bullied person will often ends up disciplined as the problem, while the calm, charming psychopath is protected by the management of allies. And sometimes if you try to fix the problems, especially like in one of these modern feminist companies, you'll discover that the real issue when challenged is that the misuse of resources and toxic behavior. You'll get accused of bullying or stalking, yourself out of a job, basically, if you try to fix a feminist service. So female psychopathy is often under-recognized because the tools and research were built around men and criminal populations, and because society prefers to excuse women's bad behaviors. I know that's what I'm personally dealing with a woman actually in VPD cells that signed on my behalf, like pretended to be me and signed a contract saying that, oh yeah, well, you agreed to be released, so here you go. And this is why I'm making this video, is for the Vancouver Police Department being openly corrupt. One of the worst police services in the world that pretends to champion itself as good. What it's done to sex workers and all types of native people, so on and so forth, it's actually unacceptable. So I thought I'd put this out there. Believe all women narratives will be exploited by psychopaths and highly narcissistic women. False accusations or social media campaigns against men who reject them. So violence is often bilateral. These women can frequently instigate violence, and the same-sex female couples have the highest reported rates of interrelationship violence. Social media is an echo chamber. Grievances and revenge acts can get instant positive reinforcement from strangers, which encourages escalation. Apps and posts where women publicly warn about men, sometimes based on rejection rather than genuine abuse. OnlyFans is framed as empowerment. OnlyFans is a form of self-devaluation and a self-made prison, profitable but damaging to self-esteem and future relationships permanently. So in dating, Do they have zero self-reflection? It will preview how they will talk about you later. Total estrangement from family is often a trail of everyone else is the problem. Narratives may indicate an underlying pattern. Watch for entitlement and exploitation, expecting you to pay while invoking vague future riches, dating for free dinners, or using you instrumentally. Drive me here and back, and meanwhile, I'll abuse you the entire way. Test for empathy and support. When you're unwell or struggling, does she show up and care or disappear and stay focused on herself? She advises to basically speed up, get close, and don't give time for patterns of responsibility, tempting empathy, and honesty to show. That would be like what some of them do. I mean, obviously the opposite of that would be move slowly, keep distance, give time for patterns of responsibility, taking empathy and honesty to show. Many psychopaths choose caring sectors: community service, disability support, nursing, early childhood education, because these roles give them control over vulnerable people and resources while providing a moral cover. Low-level psychopathic traits, especially emotional detachment, can be useful in roles that require very hard decisions: downsizing, surgery, crisis management, provided there's enough empathy and oversight to prevent abuse. The risk is that when such people gain unchecked power, to quote Lincoln, if you want to see a man's true character, give him power and apply it to women too, because in this case, if you've ever been targeted by a psychopath, narcissistic partner, parents, colleagues, this is a known pattern. There's a huge relief in knowing that. Forgiveness, not reconciliation, but just internal release of revenge fantasies and chronic anger. Otherwise, you will drink the poison that these people have for you and expect that other person to die. It's not going to work. So just you gotta mentally forgive these people for your own benefit. Not they don't need to know. In fact, they can't. They can't even fucking. You can't win a war with these people unless you have a very strong backing, because they are relentless and skilled at reputational damage. So society must stop reflexively excusing women's toxic and psychopathic behavior while condemning men's. This isn't a gender war, it's about harmful individuals. We need better tools and cultural willingness to name female psychopathy, especially in non-criminal settings, and better organizational processes to avoid giving such people disproportionate power. Subscribe, and if you want, I can make a video about signs to watch for that you could actually reference in your own life, and I'll make it into a shorter video.